I never thought the quietest person in the house would carry the loudest weight. Saturday mornings used to mean pancakes, laughter, Liza's music playing too loud while she danced around the kitchen in one of my old flannels, and our daughter Mia, rolling her eyes but secretly enjoying it. But this morning, the silence wrapped around the kitchen like a fog. I watched Mia stare at her cereal, barely touching it. She'd been doing that a lot lately, hovering on the edge of things. Not quite here, not quite gone. At 17, she had her mother's eyes, but none of Liza's fire. Or maybe she did, and she was just trying her best to hide it. Liza breezed in 10 minutes later, wearing a low-cut red top and jeans, tight enough to be a second skin. Her makeup was already done. She smelled like vanilla body spray and ambition. Going out? I asked casually, though I already knew the answer. There's a new boutique opening in Midtown. I'm just going to check it out. They invited influencers. Might do a post or two while I'm there. Mia's spoon clinked against the bowl, sharp and intentional. Mom, she said, her tone dipped in disdain. You're not 21. Can you not? Liza froze just a second too long, then forced a smile. Sweetheart, style doesn't have an age. You'll understand when you're older. I hope I don't, Mia muttered. I glanced between them, my wife clinging to an identity she built long before we became a family, and our daughter desperately searching for someone real to hold on to. Liza walked out without another word, her heels clicking across the floor like a gavel, sealing the verdict. I wanted to chase after her, but Mia's face stopped me. It was flushed, wounded. She'd been building that wall brick by brick for years now. I sat down next to her. She doesn't mean to embarrass you. Mia gave a hollow laugh. She's like a teenager with a credit card. Do you know how weird it is when my friends say they follow my mom on Instagram? When their brothers comment on her photos? I didn't answer. Because I did know. I just didn't know what to do about it. Flashback, 10 years ago. Liza stood under the stage lights, all eyes on her. The bar was packed with 20-somethings swaying to her cover of Fleetwood Mac. She was magnetic, voice husky, and eyes alive, with the kind of fire that made you believe in things. Back then, I believed in her more than anything. We met when I was finishing grad school, and she was still chasing gigs and modeling part-time. She had dreams too big for our little apartment and a laugh that made the world tilt a little. I was steady. She was spark. When Mia came, the spark flickered. Liza tried, she really did. But the days grew long, and the fire inside her turned restless. She gave up late-night gigs for lullabies, swapped leather jackets for burp cloths. I thought we'd find our rhythm, but she never stopped reaching back. Present day. Later that afternoon, I found Mia in the garage, sitting in my truck with the door open. She liked it there when she needed to think. I joined her in the passenger seat without saying anything. I met someone, she said. I looked over, careful not to jump too fast. Yeah? He's in college. He's nice. Like, really listens, you know? I nodded slowly. How old is he? 21. Silence stretched between us. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Instead, I listened. That's what she needed. Not lectures, not judgments. Just someone to hear her the way her mother never seemed to. You're 17, Mia. I know, but he's different. Not like the idiots at school. He makes me feel... She didn't finish the sentence. Instead, she leaned her head against the window. I looked out at the driveway, remembering another time, another girl I loved, saying something similar. Liza had been 19 when we met. She too thought I made her feel safe. Maybe it was a cycle. Does your mom know? She scoffed. Would she care? She'd probably tell me to post a selfie with him and call it a couple goals moment. Mia, I said gently, she's complicated. You always defend her. I don't, I said. I just try to understand her. She didn't have what you have, you know? A home. People who stayed. Maybe that's why she fights so hard not to grow up. She's afraid of disappearing. Mia looked at me then, really looked. And what about me? Do I get to be afraid too? Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw just how fragile she'd been holding herself. The fight came 2 weeks later. Explosive. Ugly. Liza found out about the boyfriend from one of Mia's tagged photos. Not because Mia told her, but because he posted a picture with her at a party. You didn't even tell me, Liza shouted, arms flailing in the living room. Because you don't act like a mom, Mia fired back. You act like competition. I stepped in too late. Voices rising, pain spilling. I gave up everything for this family, Liza snapped. You gave up a few gigs and replaced them with Instagram filters. I pulled Mia back before Liza could say more. She was shaking with rage, eyes glistening. Later, in the quiet of her room, I found Mia curled on her bed, her phone face down beside her. He broke up with me, she said flatly. Said he didn't want drama. That I was too much. I sat down, unsure of what to say. How do you protect someone from heartbreak you can't stop? I thought he loved me, she whispered. You thought he saw you, I said. That's different. And then, as I started to rise, she added, barely audible, Dad, I think I'm pregnant. The world stopped. My breath caught. My knees went weak. I sat back down like gravity doubled its pull. I looked at my daughter, my little girl who wore pigtails and rain boots, not that long ago, and I saw the fear behind her eyes. Not shame, not defiance, just fear. And I knew I couldn't let her face it alone. The rain had started sometime in the early morning, a soft drizzle tapping against the windows, like the world itself was holding its breath. I sat alone in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a lukewarm mug of coffee. I had no interest in drinking. The clock ticked louder than usual. Upstairs, Mia hadn't stirred. And Liza? She had taken a blanket to the couch the night before after the fight, insisting she needed space. I didn't argue. I had spent the entire night playing out every version of the future I could think of. Some better than others, all uncertain. She was 17. 17 and terrified. And I was, well, I was her father. The one person who couldn't afford to fall apart now. She came down eventually, hair tied in a messy bun, sleeves tugged down over her hands. Her eyes looked swollen, and she hovered near the edge of the room like she wasn't sure she belonged in it anymore. Want something to eat? I asked, voice soft. She shook her head. Not really. I nodded and motioned for her to sit. We didn't speak right away. The quiet was thick, like the space between us had turned into a fog we had to walk through slowly. Did you take a test? I asked, careful not to sound accusing. She nodded. 2. Same result. I breathed out slowly. Okay. And that was all I could say. Okay. Because whether I was ready or not, this was happening. And she needed someone to meet her where she was. I don't know what to do, she whispered, voice cracking. He won't even answer my texts. He just disappeared. My heart ached. I wanted to fix it, to take the pain and confusion and crush it with my hands. But that's not how life worked. Sometimes you had to walk through the fire instead of around it. You're not alone, I said, steadying myself for her sake. No matter what happens, we're in this together. She looked at me with watery eyes, and I could see how hard she was trying not to cry. Are you mad at me? I reached out, covering her hand with mine. Mad? Number scared? Yeah, but not of you. I'm scared of what this world can do to young women who go through something like this. But I'm not mad. I'm just here. And I will be, every step. She broke then, her head dropping into her arms, the sobs coming hard and fast. And all I could do was hold on and let her cry. When Liza came downstairs an hour later, she barely looked at us. Her eyes were red too, but her face was blank. She poured herself some coffee, sipped it, and stood near the kitchen island, as if she were watching a scene she didn't belong in. Mia stiffened when she saw her. I felt the tension rise immediately. Liza opened her mouth, then closed it. Then, finally, I didn't mean to make you feel like you couldn't talk to me. It was something, not enough, but something. Mia didn't respond. She just stood and left the room. Liza looked at me, desperate and confused. She hates me. She's scared, I said, and she feels alone. She could have told me. You would have told her what? That it's fine? That she's still young and beautiful and can bounce back like nothing happened? I didn't mean for the words to come out sharp, but they did. Her face tightened. What's that supposed to mean? I sighed and stood. It means maybe it's time we stopped pretending things haven't changed. She followed me into the living room, arms crossed, her voice rising. So, I'm the villain now? Because I didn't give up on who I used to be? Because I'm not some apron wearing suburban cliche? This isn't about image, Liza, I said. It's about presence. Mia needs a mother, not a rival. The silence that followed was louder than any shouting could have been. She sat down on the edge of the couch, suddenly looking smaller than she ever had before. You think I wanted this? She said, almost to herself. Do you know how hard I worked to hold on to something, anything, that felt like me after I became a mother? Do you know what it's like to look in the mirror and not recognize the person staring back? Her voice broke on that last word. I do, I said. I really do, but Mia's not the one who took that from you. Her eyes met mine. Something in her softened then. She nodded, barely. Later that night, I heard the soft creak of Mia's door opening. Liza walked down the hall and paused outside it. She stood there for a long time. Then she knocked gently. I didn't hear what they said, but the door closed behind her, and it stayed closed for a long while. In the weeks that followed, things moved slowly, like watching old film reels spin, grainy, flickering, uncertain. Mia had doctor appointments. Liza started coming to them, quiet but present. She'd bring little notebooks, write things down. Sometimes they'd sit in the waiting room and say nothing. Other times, I caught them exchanging small, hesitant smiles. One evening, I found Mia sitting on the porch, watching the sun go down. I joined her with 2 cups of tea. Thanks, she said quietly, accepting hers. How are you feeling today? She shrugged. Weird, tired, but also less scared. That's good, I said. A long pause stretched between us. I don't think I'm ready, she admitted. No one ever is, I replied, but ready doesn't matter as much as willing. She nodded, her eyes a little glassy. I keep thinking about what people will say at school. Online, I sighed. People will always have opinions. The real question is, whose voice matters to you? She looked at me. Yours. And that, those 5 letters, undid me more than anything else in this whole journey. That night, I went into the attic. I hadn't been up there in years. I dug through old boxes until I found the camcorder we used when Mia was born. The tapes were dusty but intact. I sat in the living room and watched hours of shaky footage. Mia's first bath, her first steps, Liza singing to her in a lullaby voice I'd almost forgotten. When Mia walked in halfway through, I didn't say a word. I just handed her the remote. She sat down beside me, and together we watched her life unfold, frame by frame, heartbeat by heartbeat. She leaned against me. Was she always like this? Liza? I chuckled. Yeah, even more. But there was a time when she looked at you like you were the whole world. I don't remember that, she said softly. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, I said. You mattered. You still do. Mia looked at the screen again. She was silent for a long time, then whispered, Do you think I'll be a good mom? I didn't hesitate. I think you're going to be the kind who listens, who tries. That's more than a lot of kids get. She didn't cry, not this time. Instead, she smiled faintly. And that, I knew, was a kind of strength. Later, when the house was quiet and the sky had darkened, Liza joined me in the kitchen. She poured herself water and leaned against the counter. She asked me to come with her to her next appointment, she said. I looked up. That's good. She told me she still doesn't trust me completely, but that she wants to. I nodded. Trust takes time. You're doing the work. She walked over, paused, and then kissed me on the cheek. Thank you for holding us together. I didn't have the heart to tell her I wasn't holding anything. I was just standing in the gaps, trying to keep the pieces from slipping through. But maybe that was enough. The first snow came early that year, thin flakes drifting down like whispers from a quiet sky. I watched from the porch, wrapped in an old jacket, a mug of tea warming my hands. The street was still, the houses across from ours covered in a soft dusting, like powdered sugar. It was peaceful for a moment, a kind of hush before whatever storm came next. Inside, I could hear Mia humming, not loudly, just a soft, almost instinctive tune as she tidied the living room. Her belly had begun to show now, small but unmistakable. She no longer wore her clothes in layers to hide it. There was something about that shift, about the quiet pride in her movements, that made me feel things I couldn't quite explain. Hope, maybe. Fear, still. But something more than either of those. Something close to awe. It had been 2 months since that night at the kitchen table, since the tears and silence and the look in her eyes when she said my voice mattered. We'd all changed since then in small, hard-earned ways. Liza, for one, had started to slow down. She still cared about how she looked, still posted carefully edited photos on social media now and then, but there was less pretense in her lately. She didn't vanish for hours to chase auditions or events. She stayed home more, cooked with Mia sometimes. They were learning to circle each other again, like dancers relearning a forgotten step. Sometimes they stumbled. Sometimes one moved faster than the other, but they kept trying. That afternoon, we were all sitting in the living room. Mia had brought down a baby name book, of all things, and placed it between us. "I'm not saying I've decided," she said, eyes darting nervously, "but I thought it might be nice to look." Liza looked up from her tea. "Do you have a preference, boy or girl?" Mia shrugged. "I don't think it matters. I just want them to be okay." There was a beat of silence. Then Liza said, "I used to love the name Clara. I wanted to name you that, actually, but your dad convinced me otherwise." Mia glanced at me, eyebrows raised. "What name did you want?" I smiled. "Mia, short, simple, strong, and your mom came around eventually." Liza rolled her eyes, but she was smiling too. "I guess Clara's kind of pretty," Mia said softly, running her fingers over the page. That moment was the kind you don't plan. It didn't resolve anything, didn't erase all the tension or pain, but it was real, and sometimes real is all you need. Later that evening, Mia came into my office while I was finishing up some paperwork. She leaned against the doorframe, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "Can I talk to you for a second?" "Of course," I said, setting down my pen. She walked in and sat on the edge of the couch across from my desk. "It's about college." I straightened a little. "All right. I was going to defer a year," she began. "That was the plan. But I've been reading about some community programs for young moms, and there's a part-time course I could start in the fall. It's not what I dreamed of, but it's something." She looked up at me then, waiting. I nodded slowly. "It's more than something. It's brave and smart." Her shoulders eased just a little. "I just don't want this to be the end of everything I wanted." "It won't be," I said. "It'll be different. But it's not over. You still get to want things. You still get to try." She nodded. "Thanks, Dad." A few days later, we had a small dinner, just the three of us. It wasn't a special occasion, no birthday or holiday, just a Tuesday. But we lit candles, and Liza made pasta, and we laughed about how she once tried to cook without realizing the stove wasn't plugged in. In the middle of dinner, Mia said, "I want to tell Grandpa." Liza set her fork down. "Are you sure?" "He's going to find out eventually," Mia said, "and I'd rather he hear it from me." I agreed. It wasn't going to be an easy conversation, but hiding it wouldn't help either. The following weekend, we drove out to visit my father. He was a man of few words, a retired high school principal with a stern face and a heart he rarely showed. I worried he'd be disappointed, that he'd say something sharp, but he didn't. When Mia told him, his eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at her for a long time, then at me, and finally he said, "You'll need help. I hope you're ready to ask for it." Mia nodded. "I am." He poured her a cup of tea and sat beside her. "Good, because no one does this alone." That was his way of saying he loved her, and she knew it. In early spring, we had our first appointment to hear the baby's heartbeat. Liza and I sat on either side of Mia, holding her hands. The nurse turned on the monitor, and the room filled with the rapid, pulsing sound of new life. I looked at Mia. Her eyes were wide, shining. She looked at me, then at her mother, and something in her expression shifted. "I think I'm going to name her Clara," she said quietly. "If it's a girl." Liza squeezed her hand, tears gathering in her eyes. "She'll be lucky." On the drive home, I kept thinking about everything we'd survived to get here: the fights, the fear, the silence. And now, this heartbeat echoing in our ears. That night, I went into the garage and dug out an old rocking chair. I sanded it down, repainted it, and set it up in Mia's room. She walked in while I was adjusting the cushions. "You really think I can do this?" she asked. I looked at her, my daughter, who had grown up too fast but never stopped growing. "I don't think you can," I said. "I know you can." She nodded, stepped forward, and wrapped her arms around me. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too," I said, "more than anything." Weeks passed, then months. There were hard days, days with tears, with doubt, with old wounds reopening. But there were also good days, days filled with laughter, with quiet strength, with reminders that healing isn't linear. The night before Mia was due, I found Liza standing in the nursery, staring at the crib. "She's going to be okay," I said, joining her. "I know," she whispered, "but I still wish I had done some things differently." "Regret doesn't mean you didn't love her," I said. "It just means you love her enough to want better." She looked at me, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "Do you think she'll forgive me?" "She already has," I said. "Every time she lets you stay close, she's telling you she still needs her mom." The next day, Clara was born, and in that tiny hospital room, with Mia holding her daughter, and Liza by her side, and me watching them all with quiet reverence, I realized something. Family isn't about perfection. It's about presence, about showing up, especially when it's hard, about holding on even when the storm comes, and most of all about choosing love again and again, no matter how messy the past might be. Because in the end, love isn't a clean story. It's a choice you make every single day. And I was proud, more than proud, to keep making it. For Mia, for Liza, for Clara, for all of us. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. What would you have done if you were in the father's shoes? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss more powerful emotional stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.